one of the storylines in this game is no matter what happens in this game, either Marcus Freeman or James Franklin will be the first African-American head coach to make a championship game. And James Franklin has said in the past, hey, it would mean a lot to me to be the first black coach to win a national championship. And Marcus Freeman, some of his comments got taken out of context. And, the reality is yeah, they really did. They really did. Yeah. It's meaningful for both of these guys. And I think, listen, they're the loudest, most annoying people on the internet want to talk about like wokeism or identity politics. Listen, it's neither of those things to recognize that you're making history, that you're doing something that hasn't been done before and taking pride in that. Listen, I've covered this sport a long time. I've seen how it works. It is hard for black coaches. That's not to say that, the whole world is built against black coaches and black coaches are victims. But it's hard. We're sitting here in 2025, and it's never happened before. And I think there's a lot of coaches that, if given the same opportunity, could have accomplished some of these things. But opportunities have been not as frequent as some of their counterparts in the business. And these guys have great opportunities. They're at great programs at Notre Dame, at Penn State, where, say what you will about the programs, the ceiling for those programs are pretty dang high. And both of these coaches are currently having those programs pretty much at those ceilings. And so, listen, there's nothing divisive. There's nothing, worth criticizing about recognizing like, hey, this is a cool moment. This is a real accomplishment. And this is something that means something to these guys when you're the first person to do something and people that look like you. And it means a lot. There's a lot of coaches out there that look like them that, you meet a lot of young coaches that used to play and they're trying to work their way up. And it's a meaningful moment. And I don't think, like I said, the loudest, most annoying people on the internet shouting about it are not going to change that. I'm not going to let them change that. And I don't think Franklin or Freeman will either. That's my take on this.
Well, just think about I just want to say, but think about in another, like, this is another light in the situation, but these are two guys which whoever does make it to the national championship as the first black head coach, think about the doors he's going to open up for black head coaches after him. Because you think about like a guy like Bill Belichick who will be like, okay, well, Vince Lombardi or George Halas, they paved the way for somebody like me to be as successful as I was in New England and accomplish all that I have. Well, when you look at, there's been no black head coaches in college football to make it to a national championship. One of these guys is going to open a door for somebody else to come along the way. It might not be next year. It might not be 2 years from now. It could be 5, 10 years from now. But at least whenever that happens, and they could do the same exact thing and be like, okay, James Franklin, he was the first black head coach to win a national championship, make it to a national championship. Hell, that inspired me. That made me work harder. That made me realize that the opportunities can be afforded to me too. Because I'll tell you, I'm not going to give my take on if I think that this statement is true or untrue, but a lot of people tend to think that black head coaches have to work twice as hard. You know what I mean? Like, look at, and I'm going to even go from college to the NFL, but look at Gerard Mayo. We talked about this before we hopped on. Gerard Mayo got fired after one season for being put in a situation that somebody above him made the decision to put him there based on the circumstances. He won 4 games this year, got fired after one season. Well, guess how many games Bill Belichick won in his first season? He won 5. So again, I'm not going to give my opinion on whether the black coaches have to work twice as hard thing is true or untrue, but I mean, just look at it.
For a long time, it's been a pipeline issue. This is the issue, and it still have a lot of blackhead. It still is. I think it's getting to a better place, but for a lot of the time, it's been a pipeline issue because it is you hire the people that you know. That's just how coaching works, and you don't have a lot of black coaches because you didn't have a lot of black coordinators for a long time. And I think for a long time, I've talked to a lot of coaches about, hey, well, there's this idea that like, oh, we have these black assistants on our staff. Well, they're the recruiting guy. They're going to relate to these young kids. And some coaches can do that and also be really good at X's and O's, but like, well, what we need you to be kind of our recruiter, and we're not going to, use you as heavily in game planning. And those things happen, and that influences ADs. You don't have a lot of black ADs, and there's a lot of issues there. So I just think, again, it's a meaningful moment. And to deny that is, quite frankly, to me, offensive. But hey.
As the only white guy among this group here on this pod, I mean, it's worth noting, though.
In case you guys didn't know.
There were 27 head coaching changes in this current college cycle. Just 3 of them resulted in a black head coach. One of them was Charles Huff, who went from winning the Sun Belt at Marshall to a program at the bottom of the Sun Belt in Southern Miss. The other two were Jerry Mack at Kennesaw State and Willie Simmons at FIU, which are two of the worst jobs in FBS. So
And it
that
should
is
be noted that Willie Simmons had to take an assistant job at Duke because he wasn't getting a lot of opportunities at FAMU, where he was killing it previously.
where he was doing a really good job at
parlay that
Florida
into
A&M.
FIU.
Yeah, and Ubben and I, you and I, we're going to be at the coaches convention in a couple of weeks. There's a black coaches meeting group there. Like, this stuff is important, and it will matter to everybody in that room to see somebody get there. And to your point about coordinators, James Franklin was the OC at Maryland. He was the head coach in waiting, ended up the head coach at Vanderbilt. Marcus Freeman gets promoted from within to replace Brian Kelly. That is why those coordinator jobs matter as well.